Hi guys, welcome to another episode. This episode will be a small technical games inside Oshu-gun. I'm going to talk about the calling procedure, file sharing, and tracking in Oshu-gun. So let's get started. First, my apology for my drawing skills, but let's hope it will be good enough. So let's assume that person A wants to call person B. For this, person A needs to get from the person B its certificate and public key. This certificate will be needed later. Having those two values, person A can be sure that B exists and its profile is complete. Then, person A prepares details for the response from the B. So it makes a space, prepares a certificate for the space, and introduces itself as an alias. And that creates a message. This message is encrypted using CM, and there are two parts, encryption plus secret. That's why we need B public key and keys of A. That allows us to encrypt message. Such encrypted message can be stored in a B's pending calls space using certificate that we fetched earlier. Now it's a B person turn. So B, to pick up the call, needs to listen for pending messages and decrypt our message. Once the message is decrypted, it can be displayed in a browser in the pending section. Then the user can click on this pending message to pick up the call. Picking the call generates a new channel, and this channel will be used for the further communication. For this channel, we also need a key and certificate for A and B to let them post messages there, and execute the same as previously. We use SIA encryption plus secret to encrypt this new message to keep the details about the new channel secret, and such prepared and encrypted message can be sent back to A to this address. So that's how the whole setting up a connection between two people looks like. So let's go to see how the file sharing looks like. Let's assume we want to share a single file called picture JPEG. To make it safe, I read this binary file as a base 64. That gives us overhead around 30%. Right after read, a file is chunked into several pieces, 50 kilobytes each, and that prepares the whole file for encryption. But JavaScript's encryption requires array buffers. So first we need to convert the string to buffers, and then I use aes-gcm with 256 bits key, and there's a very interesting blog post about pros and cons of that algorithm, so I will link it in a description box below. Every chunk is encrypted separately, but is using the same key and vector. But if there will be two or more files, every single file has own key. So this key is only for this file, and it is applied for every chunk of the file. And just after encryption, every chunk gets its unique identifier, the version number 4, and it generates two paths. One is for store in a physical storage, and the second one, which will be stored in a GAN, is there are meta information about the file. GAN is becoming a tracker of the file. So in the GAN, we store name of the file, size, encryption details, and chunks order. That will be required to restore our file later. On the store side, we have those unique identifiers and encrypted chunks. As you can see, there are not strings, they are in a binary format, and there are two reasons. Sending file, especially the encrypted file, has two heavy parts. One is to sending file itself, and the other one is to encode. So that's why I split those two parts to do not aggregate them in a one big piece. So when user uploads a file before it sends, one of the two heavy tasks is done. Yeah, so the chunk and encryption. But at this stage, user still can cancel sending the whole message or a single file. But at least the half of the job was done. Yeah, so here we have read, and here we have a sent message. So when user wants to send a message, files become a part of the regular message. This message contains can contain regular text, information about the multiple files, and so on. But the second request is done to the store, like here. This store stores the physical objects, but before this we have to encode in a base 64 to make them safe to be stored in every single storage we want. Doesn't matter if that runs on a Linux, Windows, or wherever other system we want to use. And we use a post request through HTTPS protocol. Okay, but how if we want to restore this file? So as I said, information about the files is tracked by gun as a regular message. So we have to listen for messages. Once the message shows up, we have to decrypt, SSIA decryption. And interesting from the files point of view, it's a files attribute. It may contain multiple files. So for every file, we need to get chunks from the store, and to get them, I use post method. It's not in line with the documentation, but the reason why I use post over get is very simple. Store doesn't have any information about completeness of the file, let's say, and the ownership, which means that the request to store a file, the chunks that I want to store, don't have to belong to the one file. There might be to the one or to the half of the file. So I may want to store one file in a multiple locations and let's say two chunks on each. And store doesn't need this information at all. Also about the ownership. Yeah, so store is very, very simple. And because of this, there is no way to figure out which chunks, from the, let's say, attacker point of view, there's no way to figure out which chunks on the physical machine belongs to one file if someone would like to restore the single file. And to keep this completeness of the file secret, we can't use get, because get is visible on every single layer, in every single log of every single host that it touches. Post is encrypted using HTTPS protocol, so no one can see what is inside, and that keeps this information more secure. So once we send post request to get chunks, we receive those chunks base 64 encoded and UID as a key. UID is also a file name in the file system. There is no relation to picture JPEG that we had previously. Having those chunks back to the browser, we can decrypt them, and once they are decrypted, we can join them and prepare base 64 for a browser. If it's a image, we can display a thumbnail. If it's not, we can prepare this base 64 to be downloaded as a file based on the name that we have in a metadata. So that's how the whole file sharing looks like. And about the tracking, tracking is done, is stored in a chat analytics Oshu.com domain, so you can easily see what is stored there. I track messages, how many messages are sent per session, file types, sizes of the files, but rounded to full kilobytes, and also how many files users sent in a one single message. Also, there's information about the destroying session, creating session, some brief information about how users use it to be able to improve the whole chat in the future. I hope you like it. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay legal, and see you next time.